Look, I don't even have the right beer anymore. Clearly things are going downhill, so let's look at all the things that happened last week. Welcome back, everybody. This is Weekly Navel-Gazing, once again, where we talk about, like, what happened last week, what I read last week, and all the other stuff. Let's get this started with. Cheers. So yeah, first of all, different beer because they were sold out of my usual stuff at the shop up here, and yeah, I didn't want to wait until I could find more. Anyway, let's talk about the usual things, which are, what did I read last week? What videos did I make last week? What do I plan to read this week? What do I plan to talk about this week? How's life in general? That kind of stuff. And let's start with the, what did I read last week? Well, I mean, I finished up my reading of the, what's it called? The Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, and it is obviously fantastic. You all know that already. It's a fantastic read. If you haven't read it yet, do yourself a favor. It's one of the most important, impressive, and whatever trilogies of the last decade, and I'm sure it will stay as a modern classic in the future. If maybe one of those like that only the really cool people know about, just like all the Ursula Le Guin books, it's sort of in that wheelhouse still. So wonderful books, read them, love them, perfect. I did do a quick reread of The King of Elfland's Daughter by Lord Dunsany for my offline book club thing with friends, and yeah, it's a fantastic book. It's very fairy story-like, which kind of ties into all the essays I've been reading recently, like the both by Stephen R. Donaldson, but mostly the On Fairy Stories by J.R.R. Tolkien, which, yeah, I hesitate to call this like weekly reading, but it's like a 40-page essay, so maybe it does actually count. So there we go. I reread the King of Elfland's Daughter. Maybe at some point I could talk a bit longer about King of Elfland's Daughter, possibly also The Worm Ouroboros, to look at these like precursors to Tolkien's writings, or like the more fairy side of things. In the case of Dunsany, maybe I could also read a bit more Dunsany and make like a longer video on Lord Dunsany. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know. It's possible, you know. So, that's what I read last week. And then I finally started with Babel by R.F. Kuang, which I'm almost done with. Like, I will finish this today. So that's been my reading for last week. And yeah, I did read both the On Fairy Stories essay by J.R.R. Tolkien and the two essays, Fantasy, Necessary Literature, and Epic Fantasy, Necessary Literature, and Epic Fantasy in the Modern World by Stephen R. Donaldson. I've read those like numerous times just to, you know, get my thoughts in order to talk about it. Which does bring me to the videos I made last week. Now, obviously, I already told you last week that I had made a video on The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, The Unbeliever by Stephen R. Donaldson. And that one got published after the Weekly Navel-Gazing because, you know, things sometimes take time to render, have a thumbnail, all of that. And that's what I did. And then I followed it up with a second video on Thomas Covenant's, on Stephen R. Donaldson's essays on epic fantasy and how they connect with his Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. And that video didn't do well. I mean, I'm not complaining, but it was something of a disappointment, and I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, I'm still proud of that video, so don't worry. And then I made the video on conservatism and right-wing thought within fantasy, the fantasy debate, and I obviously shortened things there. I obviously left out some things that I should have said, that I could have said. I completely forgot to mention the current debate around the Little Mermaid remake, because, yeah, it's Disney, and I was only like peripherally aware of it, and like the first round of hatred that happened when they first announced the casting, and then I just like forgot it because, you know, it's Disney, I don't do Disney things. So yeah, but I am very, very proud of that video. I think I did a lot of, I think I managed to actually voice my thoughts on that one, and it did relatively well. Got a lot of comments down there. Thank you, all of you who actually commented on that. It was a very positive debate, which I was, you know, obviously happy with. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I was like a bit wary because it does edge further into like political commentary, and I was aware. I mean, I think I thought that y'all were pretty much aware of where I stand politically in most like ideas and things, but like to go and actually talk about politics is still something that basically no one does within the fantasy and science fiction booktube community, which, yeah, kind of made me think. And I mean, those of you who've watched it, like, if you feel that it's something that I should do more and talk more about, like the politics and stuff like that, I'd be very willing to do that, very interested in doing that, because, I'm a very politically minded person. I view a lot of things through very political lenses, and that's part of how I read books. So it's always easy for me to actually draw those things out. I could just be very, much more explicit about it, and also look more at like how we in the fandom and commentary, in the overall fantasy and sci-fi fandom discourse react with those political elements of books. And that will certainly come up again very soon, which is sort of where we move to the next stuff. Oh yeah, and I recorded a video, obviously, on the Broken Earth trilogy, which, yeah, that's sort of where we're going with the political stuff. Because, yes, I recorded a video on the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, and it's already uploaded. It's just awaiting a thumbnail, and I'll publish it tomorrow, so that one's done. And it's, of course, political, because that's a very political trilogy. Once again, one of those reasons why y'all should go and read it. And I will definitely talk about Babel by R.F. Kuang. And, I mean, that book is explicitly about colonialism, imperialism, and the issues with that, so that will be a very political video, because I got thoughts on that, and I do enjoy the book so far. I think I enjoy its message more than its actual writing and, execution. But I'm fine with that, so I'll definitely make a video on Babel very soon, so that's something you can expect this week. Beyond that, I have no idea, because of course I don't. But I do have some reading plans, tentative reading plans, of course. So see, obviously I'll finish Babel today or early tomorrow morning, depending on how my day goes, and then I have to read something else, and who knows what that will be. Obviously I'm more or less done with new releases until something new comes out. There will be coming out next week, however, the official Terry Pratchett biography, Terry Pratchett, A Life with Footnotes. And as soon as that one comes out, I will read that book as soon as possible. But as far as I know, that's next week. We will see. But, I have to read that as soon as it comes out. Beyond that, I'm very much like up in the air because, I don't have like free Audible credits to spend right now, so that may be like I have to go back and look at my library, see stuff in my Audible library, which is a long one, don't get me wrong, and see if there's stuff in there that I haven't read before, that I just, slip like my mind or whatever, or whether there is something that that I should reread and actually, go back to and think about again, as I did with the N.K. Jemisin one. Maybe I'll just actually go and read her Inheritance trilogy, the 100,000 Kingdoms stuff, because I know I have that, and it's been like forever. Maybe I'll do that. Or the Dragon Riders of Pern, which is one of those trilogies by Anne McCaffrey that I have. I know I bought them ages ago, and then I forgot about reading them. And yeah, definitely something I will go and do, or some other stuff. There's one idea, and I'll go into that. There is the idea to reread Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Because see, recently a lot of people on BookTube have really loved Hyperion, and I have issues with that. Like I read Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion and Endymion and Rise of Endymion 3 times by now. I'm and I enjoyed them. I enjoyed those books. I enjoyed them less every time I read them, and I have a lot of issues with that, and I might want to reread Hyperion to then make a video on why it actually isn't that good. But for that, I need to actually have quotes, because, you know, if everyone loves those books and you just come out and say, you know, actually they suck, you'd better have examples, is how I feel about it. So that's something that might happen, that I'll just go and reread Hyperion, depending on how angry I want to get. Beyond that, who knows? Reading plans are very fluid when it comes to me, and we will see. Yeah, so what did I mean when I spoke about, like, how, in a way, I was disappointed with the results of that essay video? See, here's the thing, it's like, when I asked you a while ago, like, what do you think my main content is? I was like, as I said, I'm struggling to find out what videos are the ones that I'm most happy with, but I'm also struggling with, like, the videos that you guys are most happy with. And I figured, like, you know what? Those are essays. They're pretty cool. They're interesting. I've done, you know, I've been in multiple courses at university in what philosophers call aesthetics, which is really, like, you know, questions of meaning in art, truth in fiction, knowledge portrayed, you know, what kind of knowledge does fiction provide, those kind of things. I thought about that stuff a lot, so maybe looking at those essays and looking at what they do might be something I could do, because I feel almost qualified for it, which is something that rarely happens, right? So that was something that I was thinking about, and then I whipped up that video, and then like 5 people commented, and I was, you know what? Was it too specifics? No one really interested in that stuff? Did you guys think that I just had no points to make? Because, once again, it's like you make these videos for yourself, right? I make these videos, I wanted to talk about it. I felt I had something to say, and then you just, like, drop that out there in the void, and everyone's like, yeah, 65 people clicked on this, and, like, 5 people, I'm quoting, I didn't look at the actual numbers right now, have 5 individuals to comment on that. It's like, was it just that boring? You know what I mean? And then you question yourself again and again and again. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should stop talking about essays and interest stuff like that. Maybe I should not go and reread Epic Pooh by Michael Moorcock and talk about, like, why it does actually manage to state an important problem without actually seeing the larger issue there. And stuff like that. So I have ideas for those kind of videos, but if no one's interested, it's like, I might just, like, only do them when I really feel angry about something that needs to be said, and then do that. Same with the more political thing that I did with the right-wing thoughts there. It's like, I do have ideas that go beyond that I could do. I'm like, but maybe no one's interested, and just making, you know, shocking, almost clickbaity titles about Nazis is not the way I want to go in the future. It felt right at that moment, and I was really happy with the idea that John came up with it. Or did I come up with it? Anyway, the thumbnail with Indiana Jones and whatnot, I did like that. That's fun. But I don't want to become like a clickbaity, I don't know, I tried this this controversial fantasy series, what happened, kind of thing. That's not my style, right? So we'll need to see where that is going in the future. But the Hyperion video might actually fall into that same category, so we'll see how that works. And then, of course, there's always the issue that how, you know, the videos I make correspond to my general, like, state of being and mental state. It's like, the more depressed I am, right, the more, like, I'm struggling with, like, all the things that are not booktube, the more I'm angry at myself, sad, but mostly angry and disappointed at myself, right? The more I tend to channel that rage into, like, my booktube videos. I get way more miserable as a company, right, when people talk to me, because I get, yeah, I see everything through a much darker lens, and that makes me probably be more vicious in videos and stuff. Like, is that something I want to do? Because obviously this being YouTube, this being booktube, having stronger, hotter hot takes, making stronger claims does, in the long run, you know, lead to controversy, and controversy does lead to more clicks and stuff. So there isn't that built-in tendency to spiral down into that more controversial area just built into the algorithm there. And I'm like, I don't want to, I have to balance those kind of things because really, yeah, the last week was kind of shit. I didn't actually manage to do a lot of stuff in my life. And as I said before, it's like I managed to basically ignore all my messages, all my stuff for like 2 months, and digging yourself out of that kind of thing is brutal because at the end of the day, yes, I need to call a lot of people and apologize for just not answering phone calls, not answering messages for like months. And they're pissed, and they're rightfully pissed, right? And like every time I get a message or anything, my phone rings, I just I skid this close to a panic attack, and I just like flinched. Shit, I have to check if it's someone who's really, really pissed off. And like, will they even accept my apology when I tell them, you know what, I just physically couldn't because it sounds so ridiculous, right? It sounds so ridiculous. And then I turn all of that like self-loathing and fear into like a video, and it's like, does anyone really want to see that? Because I don't want to make you guys like, I don't want to make your lives miserable or anything. I want to talk about books. I want to hear, your thoughts about all of the stuff that I spew out there, and then have an argument. Well, not an argument, like a discourse on it, and think and hope to get like new ideas and discuss them and dialogue. The things that academics do in their like universities. I always feel like we can do this out here, and ideally we'll do, come up with new ideas and exchange ideas and talk about books. That's the strength of BookTube in a way, because it opens up that stage for debate and discourse out of merely the academic field. And I sometimes feel that, yeah, I'm probably failing at that when I do something like talking about those essays, and then it's like 5 people answering. It's like, maybe I've just failed at the idea of having an open discourse. Maybe I frame my arguments in a way that were incomprehensible, or just so boring that everyone's like, yeah, whatever, who cares about epic fantasy? It's just give me the magic system. Just give me the fantastic world build. You know what I mean? And yeah, as I said, I'm kind of lost on that one, but I feel the 5th season, I mean, the Broken Earth trilogy video came out really strong. I'm really looking forward to showing you that one. And yeah, I think I'll have thoughts on Babel, and maybe I'll even make another video after that. We'll see. Anyway, I've waffled on far too long anyway, and I hope you had a great week. I hope you read some fantastic books. I hope you plan to read some fantastic books and do some fun things over the next week. I sure hope so. And yeah, I'll talk to you like real soon. Have a great week. Cheers.